Porsche Taycan Turbo S Cross Turismo, I really don't know where to start because there is so much to say, not only about the car but about the world of electric supercars, because although this is a shooting brake boy, it has hypercar performance.
We have arrived in the age of electric, and even the hypercar manufacturers, because this is not a supercar, Saba reductive, have gone electric. 761 horsepower just with launch control, which gives just the maximum power, and 1061 Newton meters, numbers that speak for themselves. And most importantly, then we will see electric gives everything right away. So compared to a supercar, heat engine is even more impressive.
We've tried a lot of electric cars, but I've been wanting to try a Taycan for a long time because it feels like something different. And really we had this impression that we were on something special, and I'm kind of struggling to say it, but the world of the electric future doesn't scare me so much anymore. But let's start with the car for a moment. Let's give two facts. This is the Cross Turismo, which differs from the sedan in many small differences.
The two main ones are Cross and Turismo. Cross because it is a crossover version. We can see it from the small aesthetic details in the audio road style, rather than Volvo Cross Country, and Turismo because it is a kind of shooting brake, a sporty station wagon version that has 80 liters more trunk for a total of 500, so it is also made for traveling.
And then it's higher off the ground, 2 centimeters more than the Sport Turismo and sedan version, but with the standard gravel setup, because we also have the PASM shocks to give, it rises 5 centimeters, and so it can handle a little bit of off-road.
And then a 4x4 drive given by two electric motors, one
in the front and one in the back. I would in the meantime put it in drive. That in drive you don't put it in, but you click this little gear stick and the car starts moving like all electrics, and I would tell a little bit instead of what it's like inside to live in. I've put quite a few miles on it these days, and I have to say it's very user-friendly, and unlike the Tesla, which wants to be a little bit nerdy, a little bit of entertainment, this one instead wants to be really a Porsche because it's very sober in everything. Even in the menus there are no things to play with. It's really a Porsche.
For the other one. Yes, so the Tesla, we got the most minimal electric on the market. It pretty much has only one screen. Here we have 4 screens, then again we don't have physical buttons, but 4 screens is really a lot. Instrumentation, infotainment in classic center, a very nice one for the passenger, because if he wants to be involved, I don't know, looking at how many lateral G's under acceleration, the speed of going through a curve, he can do it easily by looking at his screen. And I like this very much because it involves the passenger.
The driving position is more elevated than in the regular Taycan, and that surprised me because you can actually see the road well. You're coming from the top. I thought I was sitting much lower like on a sports car, while the driving modes change delivery, trim and range because it tells you right away an expected range change depending on how you change the driving modus.
Here I can say one thing about the cockpit. I find it very riotous. I feel like I'm sitting in a sedan more than in a hypercar.
Yes, but let's come to the point. You touched on this. Is a very controversial car because it weighs almost 2.5 tons. We are 2 and 3 tons.
2,395 pounds with the driver and liquids. That's almost 2.4 tons. A lot.
However, there is a chassis here that does incredible things, braking due to 400 millimeters carbon ceramics in the front. It's really an incredible car in the data, but not only that.
Well, it's time to put Sport Plus on and show you what this car is capable of.
In Sport Plus mode, you also get this spaceship sound, but most importantly, this is the acceleration it is capable of.
Here, this is the first time as a passenger that I've ever felt my guts shake like this. Never happened with a heat-powered supercar.
It is also incredible the ease with which it goes so fast. It's unbelievable, this thing. My God! By the way, there is also a gearbox on this car. It has 2 gears, one to start to have maximum acceleration with launch control and one then to stretch. But let's try launch control a second. Foot on the brake, foot on the gas, 0 to 100 in 2 nines.
2 nines.
100, I didn't count it, but it felt like a pretty good 2.9s. There are few cars that do 0 to 100 under 3 seconds these days, and they are
2.9s.
McLarens, Ferraris, and very high-level hypercars. Here we are in a comfortable and
Mamma
very
mia.
quiet station wagon. It's crazy how much grip you have in acceleration. We have over 1,000 Newton meters, and yet it puts everything down.
To me, it sounds like the Frecciarossa engine was taken and put into this little car. It is not a little car. It is compared to a Frecciarossa. The noise is more or less similar, but the acceleration is completely different. The 0 to 100, by the way, if I am not mistaken, is identical to that of a Formula 1.
Yes, 0 to 100 as much as a Formula 1, then in the 0 to 200, the Formula 1 takes half the time. However, the initial cutoff is impressive also because here, having all the torque immediately feels like being hit by a train at top speed. There is not that progression that there is also on the gasoline engine.
It's better than the worst rides at Gardaland, Mirabilandia, and all the parks in the world. If you suffer from nausea, don't be a passenger.
But now I'll show it to you so we can do some nausea exchange. I'm going to do a bad thing on video. I'm going to shoot with my phone, but I want to see how many lateral Gs, how many longitudinal Gs we do with launch control. My glasses flew off. I'm going to do a bad thing on video. I'm going to shoot with my phone, but I want to see how many lateral G, how many longitudinal G we do with launch. Control, my glasses flew off, pull everything.
That's it. The acceleration of this car is so shocking that even your brains fly back. Your glasses, your phone, your keys, anything you leave, I won't say leaning, but inside the containers, it flies away inexorably. So this car is stunning. Because, I don't know, I go faster in this, in my opinion, than in any other gasoline hypercar I've ever tried.
Then I have to say a couple of things that, anyway, the weight is felt because when you brake, you feel the inertia. And even in the corners, you feel that you are on a heavy object. But the rubber, the chassis, the suspension, and especially this electric drive allows for devastating cornering runs, insertions, and exits. I have never seen a car do such a thing, drive down a road with such ease and neutrality.
It's a good thing. It's called Cross Turismo. I would never ever have expected it. Ever expected it, Alora, on this car. Except for the steering, which I like so much because it's light, really light, but precise and communicative like few steering,
The
Alora.
Sport Plus setup for the first time on a Porsche. I don't find it too stiff, maybe because there's so much mass to take care of, so you need the hard shocks to hold the reload displacement. However, it's amazing, and it's amazing how much neutral and easy flat.
On this car, since there's no noise, since there's no gearbox, whatever, yes, there's the automatic with 2 gears. You focus exclusively on how much you seize and how fast you can go. There's nothing easier, immediate. You don't have to think, I have to downshift, I'm under torque, or now I'm pulling up to the red zone, second, third. No, here you accelerate and corner and brake.
Like
L.
playing Gran Turismo with the automatic transmission mode, you accelerate, you just brake. But here you are always in the right gear. It's like you are always indifferent in the best moment of the engine at the maximum of its torque and power. There is to say that after 150, 160 per hour, the electric motor does not push like a gasoline engine. So the best it gives anyway, under 100 per hour, then the violence comes a little bit. It comes short of breath. Yes, let's say the
Formula 1 acceleration is in the 0 to 100. However, I am still amazed at how this car goes. I can't get my head around it.
Digit
Well, I had to open
it's
the window a
physically
little bit
demanding
to
to even
ventilate the
stand
habitat.
sideways. I've seen spikes of 1G, 2 sideways with this 2-ton Azing and 3. I'm shocked. Then I didn't expect so much sincerely from the Taycan, but not so much from the acceleration. That yes, it is violent, yes, it is beautiful, but dynamically this thing is really amazing. It's like when the Nissan GT-R came out back in the day, it had so much lateral grip and it had so much attraction for the weight it had, that it had constituted a benchmark here. This car is a benchmark for any electric sports car that wants to approach this segment without any buts. And if this is the starting point, I dare not imagine what will come next.
What is shocked is the fact that you have in your hand they call it Cross Turismo, a raised shooting brake, let's say, a crossover that in the corners, I think, I don't know, who can keep up with it? I can't imagine.
I've never gone that fast in my life. 2 notes on the daily use of this car. I've used it quite a bit. I've used it to go grocery shopping. I've used it to go on the highway for a little weekend trip. And I have to say that I've also gotten over my range anxiety a little bit, because the range that the car tells you is then actually the real range. If in place, the navigator to go to Turin tells me that it takes 180 kilometers and I will arrive with 50% at the end. I even arrived with 50-something%. So if you drive well, it even manages to save money. And this is a Sicurante, among other things, discovered a world through the apps to find the Colonnine, that there are many more than I thought. And it's really easy and short with a little organization, actually. The electric car can be used. Of course, one has to plan an Atamino, because nobody with a gasoline car programs, oh God, where do I go to the gas station? Exactly, if stops.
Then we have to take into account battery over 93 kilowatt hours standard.
Standard on this one.
So you need a fast charging station while you're traveling, otherwise you have to wait several hours.
Correct.
With the 350 kilowatts, you go from 5 to 80%, if I'm not mistaken, in about 20 minutes.
So many minutes or so, however, if you go for a day in some city, you leave it there in the afternoon, a few hours anyway, it manages to accumulate enough kilometers to do 200 kilometers. This with a full charge exceeds 400 kilometers of range. Seen by eye, not stated if it's cold. If you turn on the climate, let's say 380, that's a good trip anyway. Well, I really didn't expect anything like that. It's really nice to drive, whether slow or hard, I know there is nothing to say this car.
I think it's one of the revelations of the last few years, because the transition to electric has always dictated several concerns. Even me personally, not only...
Yes, especially driving enthusiasts.
In terms of range, but really in terms of driving pleasure. It's another thing compared to a thermal hypercar. It's hard to compare which is better and which is worse. Let's say that each has its pros and cons, and this D-Pro has more than I expected.
As always, to support us, we invite you to subscribe to the channel, to put a like if you liked our video.
Then we are curious to know what you think about this electric hypercar signed Porsche.